Welcome to the Skeptic Zone, the podcast from Australia for science and reason.
Hello and welcome to the Skeptic Zone podcast, episode number 571 for the 22nd of September 2019. Richard Saunders here, coming to you from one of the famous San Francisco trams, streetcars. I'm on the F line. F. I think it stands for fish, because eventually this will take me down to Fisherman's Wharf. Coming up on this week's show, I speak to author Baily Harris. She's only 13. She's written 3 books around Stardust. Find out more coming up at the top of the show. Following that, I catch up with Susan Gerbic from Guerrilla Skepticism on Wikipedia as we have a tour of the famous Winchester Mystery House in San Jose, a bizarre, rambling mansion built in the Victorian times. After that, it's Michelle Franklin, Life is Wild. Michelle's going to ask us the question, should you be afraid of spiders? And to round off the show, once again, I'm with Susan Gerbic as I have a chat to her about the work she does at Guerrilla Skepticism, and we do this in the war room, her office. Find out what goes on behind the scenes. Well, that's enough for me at the moment. I don't think it's too long before my stop. I've got to jump off, see if I can find some nice fish to fry. Well, I do that. I hope you enjoy the Skeptic Zone. Well, folks, only a couple of weeks ago I was at Dragon Con in Atlanta, Georgia, and what a fabulous time I had. I met all sorts of new and interesting people, and one of the most interesting people I met happened to be sitting next to me and on the opening panel at the Skep Track. It was an author, no, not just any author, a 13-year-old author by the name of Baily Harris. And I'm delighted to say that joining me now all the way from Salt Lake City in Utah, it's Baily Harris.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing really well. It's fabulous to catch up with you again for the interview, and it was such a treat for me to meet you, and I was so surprised to discover that you were an author sitting next to me, and lucky me, I've got a copy of your books right beside me. Let's talk about, first of all, the title of your very first book, which is a pretty important word because it really affects all the rest of your books. It's called Stardust. Stardust. Let's talk about that first, and we can talk about some other things. Where did this name Stardust come from?
So when I was watching Cosmos with my family when I was 8 years old, Neil deGrasse Tyson said our bodies were made out of stardust, and when I was 8 years old, this was very fascinating for me. So I ran upstairs and started to type. My first book title was actually The Book of Truth, and then I changed it. It's very similar to like the Book of Mormon. I thought that would be funny. So, but we changed it to My Name is Stardust. I thought it was just going to be a great title for it because Stardust that's what we're made out of. So, and yeah.
That's very true. And of course, now I'm thinking back to when I was 15, and the very first series of Cosmos came out with Carl Sagan, and he used to use the term star stuff. I think he used a lot of the time.
Yeah, he used that as well. Neil deGrasse Tyson, he used star stuff, but we did it Stardust.
I love it. It's almost poetic to say that we're made out of stardust. That's fabulous, and it turns out to be a character in your book. But let's talk about the fun we had at Dragon Con. You joined me in the Dragon Con parade. I was dressed as a Greek philosopher, but you were dressed as something else.
Yeah, me and my family, except my one brother, didn't go, but the rest of my family went, and we dressed as a Scooby-Doo bunch. We dressed as them because they're a skeptical group, and they always find the real person behind the mask. So that was a really, really fun. I had so much fun there, especially because you were there, and I met so many cool people at this parade, and it was just so awesome.
It is great to go to these things because of the people you meet. It's good. I think it's important to talk to the crowds who come along and give presentations, but also the wonderful people you meet. It's certainly a highlight for me. But you're only 13, and you've written 3 books already. That's impressive. I think I was 21 when I actually had a book come out, and that was very exciting. What was it like to see a copy of your very first book?
I still can't realize that I have had written like so many books. Like it's unrealistic for me. For me, I think it's really cool that you do so many origami things, like those origami earrings I've almost been wearing every day. They're so cool.
Oh, thank you very much. That's nice to know. Yes, but it is exciting when you can see your first book in print. I remember when I saw my first book, it was I couldn't believe it either. And my dad, he was so excited to see that one of his sons had a published book. Oh, it was a very exciting time. And so I know what you're feeling. Yeah,
it's very unrealistic.
It certainly is. Now, folks, the first book is called My Name is Stardust, and it's such a wonderful tale, wonderful journey, and it really is about the history of the universe in a way, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. Like, it really teaches you really good ways, like the single-celled organisms in the first book, My Name is Stardust. It really teaches you the way of life, especially with kids. It's a good example for that, about all the stars in the galaxy. The first one really describes everything. The second one's more about just the solar system, and the third one's about just evolution. So,
yes, the second book is called Stardust Explores the Solar System, and then we have the third book, which is called Stardust Explores Earth Wonders. It's a very wide range of topics. You must find it, when you're writing these books, so interesting to discover all this history.
Yeah, especially when I was writing with my dad about the solar system one, I started getting the chills learning about the other planets. It's just so crazy to think that there's so many other things besides us out there, And when I was looking up these many things, like how Jupiter has so many moons, all these things, it was amazing just looking up all these facts, I think.
It certainly is. That's one of the things that I love doing most of all, is discovering new things and wonders about the solar system and the universe itself. But now I guess you would consider yourself to be somewhat of an activist. What are you passionate about and why?
I'm mostly really passionate about science education, equality, and atheism. It's a really big part for me. I feel that LGBTQ rights and women's rights are under attack, and it's important for us to fight for these many rights. It's really important. Also, climate change, teaching children the scientific method, atheism, which is like religion, is the main thing in our world, fighting against science education and equality. We really need to fight for that as well.
Fighting for science education. I like where your heart is at. That's where my heart is at. I've been fighting for science education for a long time. And in my case, I found that the interest that skepticism has, UFOs and monsters and ESP and people reading people's minds, is a wonderful way to introduce people into critically looking at things and exploring science. Or maybe Stardust can look at ESP and psychics one day. I wonder.
Yeah, that would be funny.
That would be funny. But what do you think is next for you?
I think I will honestly continue activism. I'm speaking with Richard Dawkins and many others at SciCon in Las Vegas in October, and I'll be doing that. I think I'll continue with evolution education game based on the latest book. In 2019, I'm going to be making a evolution game. I think that's where I'm going so far. So.
Wow. And school at the same time, right?
Yes, definitely school. I'm definitely pushing there. Yeah.
I don't know how you find the time. Now, Baily, where can people get a copy of your book for themselves?
StardustScience.com.
There we are, folks. That's an easy thing to remember, and I'll put it in this week's show notes. Head for StardustScience, one word, .com. You can find out all about these wonderful books. And now I think we're in for a special treat. I hope that you might be able to read us your very first book.
Yeah, I definitely will be. I'm going to be just flipping to the first page real quick. So here we go. Hello everyone, my name is Stardust. It's nice to meet you. Do you know what Earth is made of? Do you know what you are made of? Well, if not, then today is your lucky day. Throughout the history of our universe, countless billions of stars have formed and then exploded, leaving tiny specks of dust all over space. About 4.6 billion years ago, dust from some of those stars exploded and came together to make up our solar system. Our solar system is made of stardust. There are more than 100 billion galaxies in our universe, and there are hundreds of billions of stars in each galaxy. There are more stars in our universe than there are grains of sand on Earth. Our sun is one of those billions and billions of stars. Our sun is made of stardust. There are 8 planets in our solar system. The 4 inner planets are Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars. The outer planets are called gas giants. There are Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. The planets are made of stardust. Earth looks like a little blue ball when you look at it from far away in space. It is so beautiful. Earth is made of stardust as well. Millions of years ago, Earth formed life, and life appeared, beginning with simple single-celled organisms. Those organisms eventually evolved into all the plants and animals that we see today. Those single-celled ancestors were made of stardust. Tiktaalik is one of my favorite ancient creatures. Tiktaalik lived about 375 million years ago. Tiktaalik was a fish with scales and gills, but also had wrist bones, ribs, lungs, and a neck. Tiktaalik could raise its body up out of the shallow water where it lived. Fossils like Tiktaalik shows us how fish evolved into animals that walk on land, like crocodiles. Tiktaalik was made of stardust. Dinosaurs lived on Earth millions of years ago. My favorite dinosaur is the Brachiosaurus. Brachiosaurus was so tall that it could eat the leaves from the top of very high trees. It looked a little strange because its front legs were longer than its back legs, but that is one of the reasons why it's my favorite. Brachiosaurus was 85 feet long and weighed 40 tons. That's heavier than 5 elephants. Brachiosaurus was made of lots of stardust. Around 65 million years ago, soon after dinosaurs became extinct, there lived a small mammal called Progeosaurus. Progeosaurus was about the size of a rat or mouse. Humans did not exist yet. Most mammals at the time were very small, like Progeosaurus. Those early mammals evolved into all the later kinds of animals, everything from bats to whales to primates like monkeys and apes. Progeosaurus was made of stardust. Unicorns lived on Earth a long time ago with pixies and fairies. Just kidding. There's no evidence of real unicorns, pixies, or fairies. But if they were real, they would be made of stardust. Lucy was one of the first ape-like animals that walked upright, much like we humans do now. She lived about 3.2 million years ago in Africa, where her fossil bones were found in 1974. Lucy was made of stardust. I was born 9 years ago, and I'm growing bigger and bigger each year. I love to sing, dance, and paint, and I'm made of stardust. And so are you. is My Name is Stardust, my first book.
Wow, you know what, Baily, as you were reading that, I was actually following along with the book in front of me, and I must say, folks, that it's full of really wonderful, rich illustrations. It's beautifully done.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you.
The whole book is great, and the follow-up books are really good too. So, folks, if you've got some kids who are wondering about the world, wondering about the universe, about science, I think My Name is Stardust is a wonderful introduction. Again, you can get all that by going to www.stardustscience.com. Well, Baily, I really look forward to meeting you again at another convention, or maybe you can come to Australia, and by then I expect you'll have some more books.
I would really love that. Like, Australia sounds so amazing with all the nature. I would love to see you and talk to you again. It would be really awesome.
Okay, Baily, I really do look forward to it too. But for now, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Are you looking for a science-based medical podcast to answer all your questions about health? Check out The Body of Evidence. Whether you're curious about the potential benefits of omega-3s or the potential risks of vaping, we take a look at the body of evidence to separate the noise, the hype, the lies from actual scientific rigor. We do it with comedy skits. The only logical thing to do is for me to take off all my clothes and run into the street.
No, remember the first rule of podcasting. Always keep your pants on.
With jingles.
Some are thrilled, some are not. You'll lose that hair if you stop propitiation.
And by, discussing what the evidence has to say on the topic at hand.
Orlistat is a pill, but yeah, it has the side effects of bloating, gas, and greasy stool, which makes it very unpleasant.
The Body of Evidence. Find it at bodyofevidence.ca or on your favorite podcast app. The Body of Evidence. Medicine that tastes funny and science made easy.
You find me outside the San Jose train station, the Amtrak, the transit center. It's a wonderful old-style train station, something out of the movies. And I'm here waiting for Susan Gerbic from Guerrilla Skepticism on Wikipedia to pick me up. And I spent a few moments looking around the station. And I couldn't help but think that I could walk up to the counter, buy a ticket, and just go anywhere in the United States. Maybe not Hawaii, but it's quite a thought. Anyway, I'm here to visit Susan for a few days and give her a little bit of media training, and I think we should find some time to have a few skeptical adventures along the way. South Winchester Boulevard. We're turning right, folks. We're heading for the Winchester Mystery House. I've heard about this thing going way back to the 1970s when I used to watch a show called, was it Ripley's Believe It or Not with Jack Palance? Could have been. That's incredible. Shows it from my childhood. I'm with Susan Gerbic from Guerrilla Skepticism on Wikipedia. Hi, Susan.
Hi, Richard. It's so great to have you here in my car. We're going to have such a fun time.
Yeah, and we're just driving through parts unknown. Oh, we're just checking the map at the moment.
I can turn it off because it's right there in front of us.
Oh, we found it.
Yeah, it's real easy. I've been here a couple times. It's just getting to it. But once you're here, you can't miss it. Watch. You're going to see it. You can see it right there. It's a massive house.
What, that thing?
Yeah. It's right here, right in front of you.
Oh my goodness me! It's just coming up. We're just passing a few signs now.
You can't.
Oh, it's behind it's behind a giant.
Yeah, there's a
sign.
movie theater here.
There's a movie theater.
It's gone now, the movie theater. But so we're going to go right over here to the Winchester Mystery House. I am shocked you've never been here before.
I'm shocked too, and the big sign, Winchester Mystery House, right behind a set of traffic lights, so it's sort of obscured a little bit. Unhinged, it says.
Okay.
We're going to be unhinged.
Ready to be spooked?
Oh, wow.
Mystery.
Look at that. Looks fabulous, even from the road.
This is a home that has guest parking.
Guest parking must be down here
This
a little
is
bit. Okay.
Sarah Winchester. The, which way do I turn to park? He says stop.
Stop. Yep. Oh,
Now
no,
he says go.
I guess this is it, isn't it?
Where's the parking for the Winchester house?
I don't know. Yes, sir. Got a truck right here.
Oh, just trucks here. Let me turn around because there was a little parking lot.
Well, that's
up
a
there.
bit weird. This is the first mystery, Susan. Is how do we park
Where
at the
do you
Winchester Mystery House?
So I think it's right.
I think
there.
it's.
I've
I think it's
been
up there a little bit.
Yeah.
All right, we'll try up. Try. Thank you. Yep. This must be it here.
Yeah,
sure.
it must be it.
It must be it.
There was fields here all over the place. This was a huge field in here. Yeah, this is parking.
This must be it. Yeah, because the sign saying parking leads to really nowhere. But anyway, we're in another.
Well, we're in Winchester Mystery House, which is signs will take us nowhere. Okay, let's park here.
That's right. Maybe that's the first trick, isn't it? There's a sign that takes us nowhere, so we have to come back. All right, let's go in, have a coffee, and explore the Winchester Mystery House. We made our way into the Winchester Mystery House. Tickets were bought, and we waited in the courtyard for our tour to begin. Not too many people around at that time of the day, and our tour consisted of only 7 people. The tour began in the carriage area and proceeded to wind its way through many rooms, over 100 in the end, of this incredible house. One room led to another room, led to a doorway, led to a staircase, led to a cupboard, led to another staircase, winding around, up and down throughout the house. Before long, we were completely disorientated and had no idea in what part of the house we were, as one bedroom led to a conservatory, through a seance room, through a secret passage to another floor, and so it went. Our entertaining tour guide pointing out the curiosities and eccentricities of the house along the way. The mansion was once the personal residence of Sarah Winchester, who was the widow of the firearm magnate William Winchester of the Winchester Repeating Rifle fame. We were told that Sarah, after her husband's death, was supposedly instructed on the advice of a clairvoyant or through a seance that the souls of those killed by the Winchester rifle would be haunting her, and she was inspired to build a rambling mansion to appease their spirits. One of the interesting things about walking around the house was remembering that Sarah was only about 4 foot 10 inches tall, so a lot of the house was designed for somebody of that height. I had to watch my head quite a few times going from one room to another, or from one staircase to another room, and so on. The reason Sarah could afford to build such a rambling mansion was that in 1881, after her husband's death, she inherited more than $20 million. She also received nearly 50% ownership of the Winchester Repeating Arms Company, giving her an income of roughly $1,000 a day, equivalent to something like $26,000 a day in today's money. Throughout the tour, our tour guide did make mention now and then to supposedly spooky occurrences or motivations throughout the house. The seance room was particularly interesting, but I must say this aspect was not overplayed. More importantly, the architectural curiosities of the house were emphasized. It was a fascinating walk through the past. Finally, we ended up in the gift shop. All right. Well, the tour's over. It was great. I enjoyed that. Selfie in front of the tree now.
Oh, you're recording it.
Oh, yes.
Okay, of course.
And that was as close to being inside a maze as I think I've ever been in that house.
I think it's my third or fourth time doing the tour, so it's still perplexing. I'm more interested in what you thought of it.
Yeah, it was very much like getting a tour of a museum, an old house, which is exactly what it is. But the bizarre staircases that go nowhere and the low steps and everything. But it's more, I got the impression it was more catered for her eccentricities than anything else.
And I mean, she's a tiny little woman, 4'10". So the stairs were, I think everything makes sense. I mean, if you go by, you see that there's bathrooms with windows in them.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a little odd that you can look right into the toilet.
But that's so we could see.
Right, but those were designed because she was a very old woman, and if she fell, she wanted her servants to be able to see that she had fallen.
So they
probably hung a cloth, they could have hung a cloth or something over it.
There's a lot of this incredible house which strikes me as being very practical.
Oh, it's extremely practical.
It's extremely practical.
And they said she treated her servants extremely well, and she did a lot of inventing. A lot of the things that were labor-saving devices for her servants and for herself. And she was a really interesting woman, and I think she was a really... if you've got more money than you can imagine...
They're saying she was making $1,000 a day.
Back in the 1850s?
The late part of the 18th century. Early part of the 20th century. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, and that was $1,000 a day in stock. She inherited $20 million.
Yeah. So she was doing okay.
But she wasn't a happy woman. I mean, she didn't have her picture taken. She wasn't sociable. Her husband and her only child had died. Money can't buy you happiness. It really can't. It just was... And the idea that she was into seances, okay, maybe she was, but, what are you going to do? She could have done jigsaw puzzles all day long, I guess.
What I'm glad is there was a few hints of spookiness about the tour, but largely not.
Right. It was a lot of history and explaining the inventiveness of the house. I thought that's great.
Anyway, I think, I can recommend if you're in the area, I think... visit to the Winchester Mystery House is a pretty good day out.
Right, absolutely.
The Winchester Mystery House is located at 525 South Winchester Boulevard, San Jose, California. It's open daily from 9 a.m. and you can find out more by going to www.winchestermysteryhouse.com.
Morty Skeptics in the Pub present Listening to the Universe with Gravitational Waves. Tuesday, the 1st of October, 7:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. with Dr. Hannah Middleton, astrophysicist, University of Melbourne. In 2015, gravitational waves were observed for the first time from the collision of two black holes a billion light years away. Gravitational waves make minuscule changes in distance which were picked up by the Laser Interferometer Gravitational Wave Observatory. Gravitational waves gives us a new way to learn about the universe. This presentation is an overview of what has been discovered so far from gravitational waves and what observations can be made in the future. That's Tuesday, the 1st of October, Morty Skeptics in the Pub. For more information, check out the links on this week's show notes. Show notes.
Life is wild. With Michelle Franklin.
Hi,
This is Michelle Franklin, reporting from Darwin in the Northern Territory. Today I have a question for listeners outside of Australia. Are you afraid to come here? If so, what is it exactly that you're afraid of? I'm going to take a guess and say that in your top 5 of scary Australian animals, along with snakes, crocodiles and sharks, you're probably also concerned about spiders. And I don't blame you. They're big, they run, sometimes they go inside your clothes, and it can be pretty scary. Now I have a question for Australian listeners. Do you agree with this concern? We all know that funnel web spiders are highly venomous. Redbacks lurk in every corner and outhouse, and the whitetail spider is notorious for hiding in bed sheets and melting the flesh off its innocent victims. But are we actually at risk from them? Do you actually know anyone who has been seriously harmed by a spider? I don't. I have, of course, had angry huntsmen run at me and jump and then mysteriously vanish right near my bed at 2 a.m. I've chased them out of the house wielding a broom only to have them turn and run back down the broom handle and chase me back inside again. I've even had the unfortunate experience of attempting to catch one by the light of my phone, only to have the accelerometer respond to my adrenaline-fueled recoil and automatically turn off, therefore plunging me into darkness with no idea where the spider ended up. I would honestly take a redback or a whitetail over a huntsman any day. Maybe not the funnel web, but ask me again at 2 a.m. when that huntsman is lurking near my bed somewhere, and I might give you a different answer. I don't think this irrational fear of being touched by a huntsman actually counts as fear of spiders, though. I'm not really afraid that they'll hurt me, I just don't want them to touch me. And I expect that my lack of actual real fear comes down to lack of experience. I've never personally experienced someone being seriously harmed by a spider, and I suspect that that's because they're not actually that dangerous anymore, and some of them probably never were. Granted, some of our spiders are pretty dangerous on their own, but since antivenom was invented, I don't think anyone has died from spider venom in Australia. The last recorded death from actual spider venom was in 1979, and since then, the very few deaths that have been reported were from secondary infections or allergic reactions. Redbacks get a bad reputation because they're so common and they hang out in places where people are. But despite constant exposure to redbacks by millions of people every day, bites are really not that common, and now that they get treated with antivenom, most people recover pretty quickly. So why are we irrationally afraid of spiders? I think a lot of it comes down to urban legends. I can remember being terrified of whitetail spiders when I first saw one. I was confused. I knew in my head that I'd been told they were extremely dangerous, but I'd lived among them my whole life and never been bitten. Never known anyone that was bitten. And it's a weird disconnect between the truth that I've been taught and the reality that I've never experienced it, despite ample exposure and opportunity. The story goes that you can be bitten by a whitetail spider while you're asleep and never even know it. You don't feel anything, and then mysteriously your flesh begins to necrotize, and you end up with massive infected wounds that eat away your skin and make big holes in your arms or legs. But here's the thing. In most of the diagnosed whitetail spider bites, no one actually found the spider. The symptoms just appear and the diagnosis is made on that alone. There's been a lot of work done in this area in recent years, and it's been pretty conclusively shown that the symptoms of a whitetail spider bite are immediate pain and swelling similar to that of a bee sting. Nothing like the painless or non-existent initial bite and spontaneous necrotic ulcers that get blamed on whitetail spiders. But the legend persists because people discover strange necrotic sores on their bodies and Google the symptoms or seek medical help, and even despite the mounting evidence, they're still diagnosed with a suspected spider bite. And I've fallen for it myself. Twice I've seen spiders on my skin and then later developed a rash and been convinced that I must have been bitten by those spiders. In reality, it's probably more likely that I had a reaction to the plants that the spiders were sitting on. It's like a large-scale version of false confirmation bias, only it's being perpetrated by medical professionals as well as the rest of us. We all get told that necrotic wounds are caused by spider bites, so every time someone experiences those symptoms, we chalk it up as just another example of spider bites causing necrosis. In reality, it's been shown that spider bites are extremely unlikely to be the cause of seemingly spontaneous necrotic wounds. Unfortunately, the more likely explanation is one of several illnesses or conditions such as bacterial or fungal infection, poor circulation, diabetes, or even unmanaged burns. But if we continue to assume that they're spider bites, we might miss an important diagnosis. That being said, given my irrational arachnophobia, I'm sad to say that on a bad day, when I'm feeling particularly vulnerable, I'd probably still choose the necrotic bacteria over the hairy spider that jumps. But hey, we all have our sacred cows.
Hey, fellow skeptics.
Ben Radford here.
With Celestia Ward.
Your friendly host of Squaring the Strange.
A podcast that looks at topics ranging from legends, panics, and cryptids.
To media myths, psychology, and folklore.
Breaking things down and picking things apart.
As we skeptics do.
We bring a few different perspectives on things.
Celestia, for example, is a witty cartoonist.
And Ben is a brilliant writer and longtime skeptical investigator.
We don't always agree.
But we have fun trying.
And we learn new things.
Join us for new topics every week or two.
Or browse our backlog of evergreen episodes.
Available on iTunes and all your podcast feeding troughs.
Squaring the Strange.
Take care, strangers.
Bye-bye.
I think we need to think. Here's Susan Gerbic.
Two screens, cords everywhere. We've got phones, we've got cables, we've got little discs and cameras, and I go around the back here. Bags of equipment. I'm at the nerve center, the den, the hub, the, what do you call it, the war room?
The war room.
Of Guerrilla Skepticism on Wikipedia. I'm with Susan Gerbic once again. And a quick look around this this center here. Oh, look at this, an origami elephant framed on the wall there, on the bookcase. Oh, that's a nice one. That's you and the late Robert Lancaster. Anyway, here we are. This is where, and you're at the desk, I'll just sit down here beside you. This is where you conduct a lot of what happens for Guerrilla Skepticism on Wikipedia. You're involved in a project now which we won't go into, but you were just showing me the information that you're gathering.
Oh my gosh, there's so much to do. Every time I turn around, it's like these psychics are just tainting me, asking me to research them and report back on them. I can't keep up.
They're baiting you.
I swear they're baiting me.
Well, that's, I mean, without going into details, because it's a bit of a secret project you're doing at the moment, there are some psychics on your radar, and there are various projects involved concerning them. And that's as far as we'll talk about that at the moment. I'm privy to what's going on. I'm having a look at some of the information you're gathering. And how much of what you do is just gathering this information?
Well, you know, we have to have evidence for everything.
That's all right. It's a plane going overhead. It happens to me all the time. Yeah. In fact, I'm sure that the local airport waits till I'm recording, then they send planes. Carry on. It's all right.
So what I do is we spend a lot of time, you know, just checking to make sure that we have everything with evidence. I don't want to speculate. I don't want to say they're using an earpiece. I don't want to say he's probably doing it this way. Unless I have a screenshot of it or a video of it or audio of it, I really don't want to say what's happening. So we do a lot of screenshotting, a lot of archiving. If I'm looking at a video of a psychic reading, I'm going to download the video so that it stays someplace safe. I'll probably not put it up anywhere, but I want to
keep a copy. I mean, I do the same sort of thing. If there's something coming up which is of importance to skepticism and I think it could disappear, then yes, by all means, we archive it. We may not ever see it again, but it's there if we need it.
Absolutely. And I find this with people all the time. They'll say, oh, I saw that psychic so-and-so said this, or this cancer person, cancer quack or anti-vaxxer or whatever it was, said this thing. And it's like, well, that's nice, but you need to archive it. So I have an archive button right here on my computer that takes me just a couple seconds to archive things. Plus then you screenshot or whatever. But everything has to be saved. Everything has to be in a place where you can retrieve it. And then I'll put it on a cloud so that I can retrieve it from wherever I'm at. But it's very important that we have evidence for whatever we're going to say. For example, the video that we stumbled across and we started researching the other day that you were talking about, it was a psychic saying that they did a reading, and the person said, oh my gosh, that psychic was so correct because there's no way he could have gotten that information except from my dead father. Yeah. And so that's an evidentiary claim. That's evidence. I mean, that's something we can check. So when somebody says that, we say, oh, really? Let's see what the psychic said. And I mean, let's see what the psychic said, and let's see what your Facebook or your Twitter or your social media account said on that day. So we'll go back, we'll look at what it was that was said, and then we just screenshot everything. And that's how you kind of go back and you can prove, well, he could have been talking to a dead person, or he could have been looking at your social media page just like I did.
Which has the information you were just saying there is no way they could have known.
Exactly.
The other time that we hear there is no way they could have known, red flag for us, of course. That's a red flag. We discover it's purely cold reading. And, of course, a good cold reading will leave the victim with the impression there is no way they could have known. But when you unpick it psychologically, you can see it's just standard cold reading techniques. So we're talking about cold reading, which is where the psychic, and we use the term psychic in air quotes, folks. It's just a shortcut. The psychic will use cold reading, which is just purely psychological techniques, or hot reading, where they know, they have research by whatever means. They might know something about the person by talking to family members, but more likely these days, they just run online and they go to their Facebook, they go to social media, tweets or whatever, and they can discover all sorts of things.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And we're seeing this more and more. It's becoming more common because people don't realize how much information out there is on, each person. Yeah. I get often people will say, well, why don't you just get a reading from psychic XYZ as if that's going to give me some kind of evidence that I'm going to believe? And my response is, there's nothing they can't find out about me. There's probably 1,000 photos out on social media that I've taken or are of me. Some of them are in my office where, okay, it's a picture of me, but you can see my bookcases behind me. You can see photographs on shelves behind me. You can see the books I read. You could probably find anything you wanted to. You can get the name of my first grade teacher and my first car I purchased.
The other thing you can do, of course, is you just turn up cold yourself to a psychic reading with giving them no chance beforehand to do any research on you. Or you can do something that I know some people do, is they leave little, what shall we call them, landmines around social media, falsehoods, completely false things about themselves. So if it ever comes up, they say, well, that was something I left which is completely untrue.
Absolutely. The thing of it is what is it you're trying to do? We know they're cold reading. We know they're hot reading. If you're just doing investigative work just for your own sake, and of course I have to do that kind of thing when we're investigating a certain psychic. We need to know what their techniques are. But why go to a psychic and leave a little bit of information so that you can what? What are you going to do with it?
That's true. And as if you need that to know, they're not psychic after all. Well, how about that? How shocking is that? But that's one thing that you're involved with, of course. But the whole guerrilla skepticism on Wikipedia, you've got a team of people out there all around the world, all corresponding with you in one way or another and all getting training. I mean, when do you get time to do anything else?
Well, my team is amazing. They are located all over the world, and I do receive messages from them 24/7. I'll be like, we went to the aquarium today, and I was receiving messages from the team. But it's great. It's a wonderful feeling to be able to go somewhere and give suggestions, but they work on their own. All of our training is done in the Secret Cabal on Facebook, so they're there to talk to each other, and if somebody has a question, they can ask me directly, or they can ask in the Secret Cabal. Somebody will answer. And everything's on Google Documents for them to learn. I feel like I could probably go for another 10 people a day. It's really not that much work for me.
And now, of course, you've just been the first graduate of the Skeptic Zone Media Training Academy. You have a certificate to prove it. Yesterday, folks, we spent hours here in the office, in the Heartland, the War Room, and I gave you lots of training on microphone techniques, how to set up recording, stuff like that, editing, and we look forward to hearing the results.
Oh, that was eye-opening. I have learned so much from having Richard here just in the last day. I mean, just silly little tips that I had not even thought of. He'd watch how I was using the computer, and he'd say, well, why don't you just get an extension cord and do it this way? And I said, I don't know. It never even dawned on me. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Let's do that. And the training was terrific, everyone. And I think Richard should come out and train everybody on how to do really great audio. So let's see what happens. Because
the next time you send me a report, we should all be able to hear the difference.
Yeah, the pressure is on.
The pressure is on. And you didn't know your iPhone could do so much, did you?
Absolutely not. I can edit audio on that. I'm amazed. The technology we have now is incredible, and it's great to be able to take advantage of that.
Well, this has been a quick sneak peek. I won't say look, because you're not looking. This has been I'll say it's a sneak peek behind the scenes here at Guerrilla Skepticism on Wikipedia. Susan, if there are people out there who want to make a difference in the world, especially through editing Wikipedia, putting up good information, what should they do?
They should reach out to me. Reach out to me on Facebook. That's the easiest place to get a hold of me. And I apologize to all those people out there who refuse to use Facebook. You don't have to use Facebook other than just having an account to reach out to us and be on the Cabal. But that's the easiest place to get a hold of us. Or you can go to our website, abouttime.org. And you can get all kinds of information about different investigations we've done with psychics, as well as the GSoW project, Monterey County Skeptics, which is my local group, or any number of other things that you'll find on our website.
All right, there's the clue, folks. Once again, Susan, it's wonderful to be visiting you here for the moment. I had a visit last night from a disembodied spirit. I really did. I was in your guest room, happily tossing Zeds at the ceiling, dreaming of I don't know what, and suddenly I hear this ghostly meow, meow.
I have 3 cats, and one of them he's just a little coward. He doesn't want to come around anybody at any time until he gets to know him, that person. And in the middle of the night, he came out, and I could hear him, wow, wow, which is the sign there's something in his mouth. So I had to get up, and he was outside Richard's door with a dead mouse. And I had to get the mouse and throw him and the mouse out. I think he was leaving it for you, Richard. He was trying to show you that he's the provider of this household. Maybe he wanted you to leave, and he was showing you that he's actually, handles the food in the house or something, or maybe he was just showing you he's an equal. I don't know, or it's a gift. I don't know.
I don't know. But in the middle of the night, halfway through my dream, I hear this cat from hell noise, and then I hear you coming up the hallway, and he's got a mouse or something like this.
I did not want to put on the lights and everything. It was late at night, but why? Who knows? Cats do what they do. You have your 2.
We do. You know what's going to happen is you're going to go for a psychic reading one day. They're going to say, I sense some cats in your house, and what's this about a dead mouse?
We know when we get up in the morning to carefully look at the floor where you're walking before you.
I think that's a very good idea.
Yeah.
from the heartland, the nerve center, the war room of guerrilla skepticism on Wikipedia. Susan Gerbic, thank you very much.
Thank you, Richard.
And just to be clear, that website is abouttimeproject.wordpress.com.
The Earth is only 6,000 years old. That's what Answers in Genesis and the Creation Museum say, and how can a museum be wrong?
Isn't Dr. Oz just wonderful? I loved today's episode. It didn't talk down to his adoring audience of women at all.
Science has proved that the subatomic quantum realm is as real as it is counterintuitive and bizarre. Therefore, I can use it to support quantum healing and quantum consciousness. After all, how can journals like Aquarius Metaphysics be wrong?
Evolution is just a theory. After all, if we came from monkeys, then why are there still monkeys?
We all have friends and family who believe these things and much more. Well, if you're a rational thinker who is tired of arguing on social media and never getting anywhere, we have a solution for you.
Join the Guerrilla Skepticism and Wikipedia team, and we will teach you how to add reliable scientific and skeptical information to the world's #1 source of information, Wikipedia.
We write new articles and improve existing ones. We remove pseudoscience, paranormal, and alt-med claims, substituting the actual facts. And we operate in many languages.
We've already reached tens of millions of people searching for information, but as you can imagine, we can never do enough.
So please, join us. All you need is a PC and the desire to help educate the planet. In fact, you'll be educating the world while you sleep.
Contact us at GSoWteam@gmail.com. Guerrilla Skepticism. The time is now.
Music by PurplePlanet.com.
Thank you for listening to the Skeptic Zone this week. I'm down here by the bayside. There's a sea lion. How about that? Swimming along near the submarine here, which is on display, the USS Pantino. I look over to my right, I can see some ferries launching out into the bay. I look past the submarine and there's Alcatraz in the background. Coming up next week's show, we're going to bring you a story about a horse chiropractor. Maybe he sounds like me at the moment, a bit hoarse. No, I think it really is a chiropractor who manipulates the spine of horses, or something weird like that. Also, an update on the Area 51 fiasco. You will recall lots of people were going to storm Area 51, but I don't think much happened. We'll find out what really did happen. We might even contact my buddy Ben Radford for a comment. Thank you to those people who continue to support the Skeptic Zone with Patreon at skepticzone.tv. Means a lot. Means the show keeps going. Now, behind me, I'll walk through the doors. I'm near the Museum Mécanique, which is dedicated to coin machines going back decades, probably over a century. Old and new. If you ever come to San Francisco, come down to Fisherman's Wharf and visit the Museum Mécanique. Lots of fun. People playing Donkey Kong. Lots of old pinball machines. So from the mayhem of the Museum Mécanique, this is Richard Saunders signing off from San Francisco. You've been listening to the Skeptic Zone podcast. Please visit our website at www.skepticzone.tv for show notes, contacts, and to access the back catalogue of episodes going back to 2008. You can follow the Skeptic Zone podcast on Twitter at Skeptic Zone, visit our Facebook page, or leave a review on iTunes. You can also support the Skeptic Zone via Patreon or PayPal. The Skeptic Zone podcast is an independent production. The views and opinions expressed on the Skeptic Zone are not necessarily those of Australian skeptics or any other skeptical organisation.
Hamilton. Did you do that? Why did you do that? Did you?